Looking for a Thanksgiving side that's both flavorful and protein rich? Well, forget the carbs for this dish. We're going to be making a protein rich meat stuffing that will keep your family coming back for more for this Thanksgiving. Let's get started. What do we need for this meal? We're going to need ham steak, some pork sausage, regular or maple, if you want a little extra zest to it. Then we have some fresh ground pork as well as some ground beef. You could also use ground bison. We're going to start cooking all the meat here in a second, and then we're going to be adding some celery, some raisins, and pecans or pecans, however you say it. Those are going to be kind of saved. These three items will be saved till last. So let's kick it off, get started. We're going to start meal prepping. I like to personally cook all the ingredients kind of in their own dish. So this first one, we're going to put the ground beef, minus the plastic that I just put in there. We'll put ground beef in one pot, and then we're going to put the ground pork in the other pot, and then we'll put the pork sausage in another pot. So this allows me to essentially get everything cooked and going in each individual pot. Then we'll mix it together at the kind of end. I have a little wok that I'll put it in that will allow us to mix everything kind of at the end versus trying to have it all cooked together in one pot. One, it goes a little bit quicker. Two, it makes it a little bit easier to cook. So we're gonna get that started. I'm gonna cut the ham steak while these three dishes are cooking. We'll get these started. Again, like I said, each individual one makes it a little bit easier to cook versus doing it all together. We'll have to move that in a second. Obviously trying to cook, film, and also face the camera, it makes it a little difficult, but that's okay. All right, so we'll get this started. So the reason we have the three different meats is we're gonna get lots of different flavor from each of the meat. Obviously the pork sausage has a distinct flavor. If you find, this is just a regular, but if you find the maple one, that actually gives a little bit of sweetness to it. It is delicioso, if I don't say so, don't mind saying it myself. All right, we're just gonna wash our hands real quickly again. After I washed them the first time, we're gonna get the meal and the meat cooking while we cut the ham steak. So this is going to be going, I'll typically put them, like I said, in their own pot. I'll put it around 5, and then I'll actually use different sticks, cooking sticks, spatulas for them. So we'll have 3 different ones, and then we'll get this one going as well. We'll turn the fan on a little bit later, but we're gonna take, you'll also need a chopping block or a cutting block. And since I use that knife to cut the pork, we're not gonna use the same one. And technically it wasn't a knife, it was scissors. So this ham steak, you can get out pretty much all these ingredients at the store. This is a bigger ham steak. You can even get the smaller ham steaks. If you wanna get your own ham and like cook it yourself, that also works. This has the bone in. We are actually going to chop this into small little cubes. So that's actually going to make it a little bit nicer. We'll put that in there. I'm going to use a knife. We're going to cut this into cubes. This will kind of go to the side. These are going to cook. I'll start to mesh them a little bit so you guys can kind of, I'll try to get nice and close so you can see the deliciousness that's going to happen. Then we're going to chop the celery here, and then we'll squish the pecans a little bit more. This will be kind of cropped a little bit, or this will be cropped a little bit. These will be in small little chunks, and then the raisins will just be as is. But these 3 items will be kind of the very last thing that will be going in to the meals. Alrighty. So the ham steak here, again, I'm just going to cut it into kind of cubes. Doesn't have to be exact. I personally like a little bit smaller cubes of the ham. You could go a little bit thicker if you want, but for this, we're gonna get nice and thin like, and then I'll typically do strips of the steak, meat sauce. I'll do strips of the meat, of the ham. Sorry, I'm trying to think and talk at the same time, but also make sure that I mix the meat behind me. Like I said, this one has a little bone in, so I'm just gonna cut this into little pieces. We are gonna be going kind of fast. We're running un poquito behind. So we're not going to obviously use the bone. Any fat or anything you don't want, you can kind of put off to the side. But like I said, I'll be cutting the meat into kind of small cubes. So I'll show you in a second. I'm also going to get a little bit of this going squished here. So like I said, I have these kind of on a 5, so a middle medium Typically for seasoning, I'm gonna put some salt, some pepper, maybe a little bit of garlic salt in there. Not gonna do too much. Obviously like a little bit of salt is like my go-to salt. I'll show you guys some of the salt that I utilize. Redmond Real Salt. It's actually out of a salt mine in Utah. I love it. If you guys wanna check that out, there's a link below. You can use code Margot and they'll get you 10% off. It's a little bit of a discount. Help support me, but I love the product. I stand by it. I take it every single morning. I take about a spoonful of the small ancient fine sea salt with about 10 to 12 to 14 ounces of water, and that kind of helps improve my gut digestion, helps things stay regular, we'll say. Can also help with gum health, specifically the salt. So I will take that in the morning, and that will kind of be the start of the day. It also helps balance electrolytes as well. If you don't like to take electrolytes, then salt can be a good go-to or good replacement or substitute for that. And then I will have some sort of relight electrolytes later in the day. But anyways, we're gonna be using those seasonings, the garlic salt and the salt, specifically for this meal. Okay, so again, I'm going to make sure that I'm not using the same spatula for each meat. Ground beef, ground pork, pork sausage. Man, I did a hard workout the other day and my arms are smoked. I did 110 pull-ups and I haven't done that in a while. Kipping butterfly pull-ups and my arms are smoked pancakes. So again, this is a relatively easy meal. Again, if you have a partner or a spouse or friends or family that can help you cook or prep with this, it doesn't take that much time. But again, we're going to be cooking the ground beef, the ground pork, and the pork sausage. So we're going to use a napkin to denote which one I'm using. So this is going to be, I'll put that for the ground beef, that for the ground pork, and then of course the pork sausage over here. I'm going to need to turn the fan on here a second. I'll chop this one up. I'm going to use my left hand because my right hand's kind of smoked pancakes right now. So you're just going to essentially chop these up. Again, these will be cooking till they're almost done. When they look like they're almost kind of finished, we're going to add them together in one pot. I'll probably add these two in this pot over here, or I'll put it in the wok. We are going to, while these are kind of cooking, I'm going to meal prep. I'm going to cut and chop the celery. The celery we're going to be kind of using the small little bits and pieces. And then for the raisins and pecans, we are going to be using about I think it's 1/4 of a cup. I'll double check with you guys here, but I'll put all the kind of instructions down below in the description as well as the measurements so you guys can kind of see that. That'll be very important. Let's do some B-roll. Let's go here. All right, so we got the ham here. Look at that. I haven't finished cutting it, but we're going to go into cubes. So it'll be like small little cubes. But we have the ground beef. Yum, yum, yum. We have the ground pork. And then the pork sausage. Looks delicious. Yum, yum, yum. Beautiful. Alrighty, okay, cool. So let's finish. So again, now we're gonna be going cubes here. So now that we have the thick kind of ham, I like smaller chunks of the ham. Any, again, fat or anything you're not really wanting, you can kind of take out. But I like the smaller little chunks, little cubes. But this just gives it a little bit of flavor. So we essentially have 4 different meats here. Ground pork, pork sausage, ground beef, and then we have the ham. Again, I love this dish. I've usually eaten traditional like stuffing in the past, but I am looking for more protein-rich meals, especially during the holidays. There's tons of carbs, and nothing is wrong with carbs. I've talked about this before. Carbs are great fuel source, especially if you're doing lots of high intensity or a lot of endurance training. Your body can run off of fat. But if you feel like there's a lot of carbs during your Thanksgiving meal and you want to kind of change it up, I suggest trying this meal out. It is delicious. All right, so we got a good amount of cubes there. We'll put some of the fattier pieces out like that. Pull that out. And then we're just going to chop these up. And then I'm going to probably mix some of this together. Ham will kind of go in last. Ham's technically already cooked here, but we want to warm it up, making sure it's not too cold, too chilly, too frio. Those we're going to take out. So again, if you feel like you're like, oh man, this is a lot of meat, like I said, this is a protein-rich meal, something different. It's going to be a little bit, obviously, low carb. It's going to be higher fat. There's a good amount of fat in here, but fat is good for the body. It's a fuel source as well. So again, if you're looking for a lower carb, more of a protein-rich meal, this is going to be a go-to option for you. And we're just going to finish these. Man, we got a good amount of ham. I could maybe gone on like a smaller ham, but this will be perfect. I just hope the alarms, the what do you call it? The smoke alarms don't go off. Alrighty, so we'll do another mixy here. These are cooking pretty fast. Again, it's a pretty quick meal. Again, if you want to kind of switch things around, you could always cut the ham, cut the celery, cut the pecans, or squish the pecans. Have those pretty rich ready, and then you're just going to cook the meat stuffing. You'll cook all these meats, and then you're going to mix it all together. Again, I like to have it about 85% cooked. Like if there's a little bit of pink left, then once that's good, then I'll put it all together because it's still going to cook a little bit more. It's still going to be underneath or on top of the stove. So I still am going to want to make sure I don't dry it out by cooking it too long. But again, we'll be using ground beef here. Also, like I said, you could use ground bison. I didn't have bison at the store. I didn't see it at the store, so I just grabbed that for this time, ground beef. Turn that down a little bit. I like to give it a little bit of crispiness here, so I don't know if you guys can see, but in the ground pork here, there is a little bit of crispiness. Like it's kind of like, not glazed like a donut, but it's, I would say burnt crispy, but I like it because again, it gives a little more flavor. We haven't even put the seasoning on, which I'm going to do here in a second. Okay, last one over here. Entropy is watching intently. Entropy, what is it? Is it good? She's watching intently. So we're going to get this pork sausage. Again, if you like something a little more sweet, you can always get the maple pork sausage. I think it's Jimmy Dean, the one I had. Again, now I will say, maybe not the healthiest option, right? Because it has a couple additives to it. But again, it's Thanksgiving. We're going to make a better meal out of the options. We're going to pick some healthier choices. And again, pick and choose. We also want to enjoy ourselves, but we're going for more of a low carb, high protein meal. All right, let's add some salt. I'll show you guys some of the salts that I really like. Oh man, I'm missing one. All right, cool. So what we got? So this is the real salt that I was talking about. This is a cool little container that they have. I absolutely love it. You can put, essentially that's the fine sea salt that I have in there. I ran out of the container. Someone threw it away. So someone, as in not me. Anyways, but I'll use a teaspoon of this in the morning. Like I said, this is a fine sea salt. We're going to save that for later. Tonight, we're not going to be using this one. This is organic sea salt. I use this on my steak, chicken, everything. We are going to be using the garlic salt from Redmond. We're going to be utilizing this one. I love this. I use it on pretty much everything. And this is going to be my go-to today, the ancient kosher sea salt. This we're going to be utilizing for the seasoning right now. I'm going to go a little easier. So a little salt on each. Now people might be like, oh, there's enough sodium in there. Well, our body's naturally going to balance out. We're just going to put a little garlic on there. Again, just a little bit of garlic, a little bit of salt. Season, season, season. Do a little mixer. The ground beef's looking pretty good. We'll probably add the ground beef and the ground pork here in a second. I'll turn this one down to low. I find that ground beef or ground bison cook a little bit faster than the pork. So this looks almost pretty much done. Again, I try to make sure it's squished. I don't want tons of big chunks. So I'll leave that like there. This is almost done as well. Again, still has a little crispiness. Talking, filming, and making sure I don't burn food at the same time is difficult. So this is pretty much done. I'll probably add this here shortly all together. Now, if you guys have anything specific questions in terms of like what kind of ground beef or what kind of ground pork or ground sausage, just let me know. I can share and showcase what I've utilized. But again, this is like, I think 85% fat, 85% protein, 15% fat, ground beef, and then just the pork sausages that came with it. So I think everything might fit in this container, but because it's kind of crispy at the bottom, I'm gonna grab the wok. I'm gonna put all these in together. Excuse me. This needs a little more time for sure. So I'm gonna let these cook. I'm gonna put these both on low. Oops. Yeah, so low for the front and back one. This is still cooking. We're gonna grab that wok out. I just wanna make sure, especially with pork, I want pork to be cooked relatively all the way through. No chance of any pink in there. This still has a little bit of pink. So we'll let those simmer. We're gonna grab the wok. Again, the wok is gonna be everything that we're gonna put in there. We're actually gonna add the ham. Let's add the ham already to the ground beef, so those get kind of warm. Also, when you put your meat or slide your meat into the pan, do not use the blade knife down, flip it up. I was informed that you do not want to do that, which obviously you don't. All right, so that we're not going to use anymore. We are going to be using the same cutting board. We're just going to rinse the knife off. And we're going to use this for the celery. So celery and the pecans. Oh, I need to cut it. We're just going to go right through like that. Economy of time right now. All right, so the pecans are pretty much done here. So these are chopped pecans. I'm just going to squish them a little bit more. Makes it easier when they're in the bag versus opening. So it doesn't have to be super small chunks, but you don't want the whole chunks. You want them kind of like halved. We'll go like this, open it up a little bit. I don't want the container going all the way through. Just so the air goes out. And then we're just gonna go squish, 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 squish. That's an easy way to chop your pecans. And then we're actually gonna use we're gonna do 2 boxes of raisins. If you like raisins, I love raisins. I'll typically put maybe like 3, so maybe we do 3 today. We're gonna put 3 boxes of raisins there. Again, this is going to be last. This will be last as well. And again, oh, let me pull that up. We're gonna be measuring half a cup, I believe. Let's pull up the recipe just in case I forget. But important is, let's see, it's half a cup. So we're gonna do half a cup of celery, chopped celery, and half a cup of pecans. So these are looking pretty good. We're gonna mix everything. I'll turn this one off. I'm gonna put this pork in here. Whoops. So these porks are pretty much finished. This is like speed. I feel like I'm speed cooking right now. Like I'm on a TV show. Okay, so those are pretty much done. Save that piece of pork. Enchibee is giving me the curious eye, wondering if she's gonna get some. So that's pretty much good. And then we're gonna use this real quickly. Mix in the ham with the beef. Get it nice and juicy with a little bit of fat on there. Get it nice and warm. And then we're gonna mix everything into the wok here in a second. I feel like everything could fit in there, but I just don't wanna like, kind of wait. All right, let's finish this. So we're gonna probably gonna get at least 1, 2 of the celery sticks. I'll probably need a little bit more. But for the celery sticks, we're gonna cut them nice and small. So we're gonna go like chunks, like long ways. If that makes sense, if that even makes sense. We'll cut the edges off. And then I'm just gonna go kind of about, I don't know, quarter, definitely not an inch, quarter, maybe a 1/3 inch. But I just want kind of like small little chunks. You can kind of see here, if you guys can see, small little chunks. But I essentially want at least half a cup. If you want more, you can, more than welcome to do more. We're gonna see, knife down. Don't worry, I'll use another one. All right, so we're gonna take the half a cup. We're just gonna make sure we got half a cup in here. So about 2 celery sticks gives you about half a cup. Again, un poquito más, which is fine. We'll just put this here. And then half a cup of the pecans. So we'll take these here. I'll put those in a second. And then raisins. So this is pretty much good to go. We're gonna swipe this out. We're gonna mix this in. Turn the heat up a little bit. So we're taking all the pork sausage, ground pork, put it in here. Nice and crispiness. It gives it a little bit of flavor. Again, protein-rich meal we're gonna have for Thanksgiving or for any time you want. All right, so we got that. We're gonna pile these here. I'll handle those later. Then we're gonna take these from the ground beef and the ham, and we're gonna mix it in there as well. Nice and juicy. Good. And that heat's going on like a good medium. A little bit of fat there. Not, we're gonna be shy of that. All right, cool. Now we're actually gonna get a different, I just get a little nervous using some of the, I'll use this one, of the hand, what do you call it, spatulas, because like there's still some raw pork in there. So we're gonna go to a new spatula. We're gonna mix it in. Looks pretty good here. Just do a little chop chop. And then now we're actually gonna add in the celery. So we'll put half a cup of celery. And then we're gonna do half a cup of pecans. And if we have a little bit more extra pecans, I'm not gonna say that I don't mind that. Now this packet here is 64 grams, it's 2.25 ounces, and that gets you a little bit more than half a cup. So this is just the chopped pecans, it's 2.25 ounces like I said. That is about, on the back it says a half a cup, so 2 servings is a cup, half a cup, excuse me, so a quarter cup, my bad, math, numbers. So it says a fourth of a cup there, 2 servings, so it's about, gives you a half a cup. It's a little over, that's okay. I squished them a little too much, but that's all right. So I'll mix those pecans in there. And then, like I said, we're gonna add 3 boxes of raisins, because I love raisins. Raisin gives it a little bit of that sweetness, a little bit of fun. Plus they'll get a little more juicy. Man, we are crushing this timeline right now. So 1, these are just sun-dried raisins. So I'm gonna put all these on top and then I'm gonna mix it in here in a second. Alrighty. I used to love raisins all the time. I used to eat them a lot and I haven't. All right, we'll take our spatula and then we're just gonna mix this in gently. We want the pecans to get a little soft. We want the celery to get a little soft. We want the raisins to get a little plump. So obviously the meat's still cooking a little bit. It's gonna let it simmer un poquito in here. I like to mix it, get some of that celery, some of the raisins, some of the pecans on the bottom. Again, we're wanting this to be a little soft, not super soggy in terms of the celery. That's why we add them very last minute. But we're gonna let it simmer a little bit. If we want, we're gonna put a little more garlic on top, a little sprinkle, and then a little bit of salt, a little sprinkle, and then we'll let that simmer for a little bit. And voila, you have a protein-rich and flavorful meal for Thanksgiving. Like I said, we're not gonna be having any carbs necessarily with this meal. A little bit of carbs with the raisins. Again, if you like look on the back side here, or the side, where is it? It's somewhere on there. Oh, it's on this container, there you go. A little bit of carbs in there, but this is a highly protein and fat based meal. It is a great option for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, anytime you want to meal prep. This will get you a good amount of food. Again, we have those 4 different meats: pork sausage, ground pork, ground beef, or ground bison. And then we have that ham steak. And then we have the celery, the raisins, and the pecans or pecans as sprinkling on top. So if you guys love this, did you find it entertaining? If you had any questions about this, please feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know. But I hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving meal, and I will see you guys next time.